Greetings, free thinkers. Welcome to the Hoggcast. How are you doing today? Hope you're doing fine. I certainly am. Okay, so what do we have for you on today's episode? We have for you Ted Cruz down at the southern border, and he's made a speech yesterday that I think is quite important at the southern border. He makes a lot of very good points, and I wanted to share that with you. We'll watch the clip, and then I'll give you my thoroughly expert analysis afterwards. The southern border situation it's a strange one. It's part tragic, part annoying, part critical, part very serious, and it's all kind of blended into one, and it's hard to make a decision. And the thing is, any decision that anyone makes, it's going to have a downside to it for someone, but albeit a decision does have to be made. Things like this, they can't just be allowed to continue, right? So let's get into the clip now. But if you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video around. It only takes a few moments to do those things, and it really helps us try to reach a bigger audience. It's very hard to do that if you're a commentary channel on YouTube. They don't like conservative content, they don't like conservative commentary, so it's hard to find a new audience. So I could really do with your help to combat that. Okay, let's go. Okay, so over to Ted Cruz.
It is great to be back in the Rio Grande Valley. It is terrific that John and I were able to bring 18 senators down to Texas, down to the valley, to see firsthand the crisis that is unfolding here. All of us today witnessed the Biden cages. What is occurring here on the border is heartbreaking, and it is a tragedy. You know, as we stand by the banks of the Rio Grande, we have an army of TV cameras here. It is striking that not a single one of these cameras is allowed in the Donna facility. We requested that media accompany us in the facility. The Biden administration said no. The Trump administration had allowed media inside facilities like that. The Obama administration had allowed media inside facilities like that. The George W. Bush administration had. The Bill Clinton administration had. But the Biden administration wants to hide what is going on here.
And there's a reason for that. You see, the leftist, the Democrat, of course, being, or at least at the moment, is dominated by the radical left, who are essentially Biden's puppet masters. I believe personally that Kamala Harris is Joe Biden's puppet master, among other people, but she's like the main one. Now, with them having the mainstream media as essentially their propaganda arm, their allies, entertainment's their allies, institutions, public institutions like education, even hospitals, and now, worryingly, even the military have all been dominated by leftists who immediately push out the conservative-leaning people out of all these organizations. That's very good for them when the going is good, right? Because they can say what they like, when they like, and no one will challenge them, because the people who are supposed to challenge them, the mainstream media, will just back them up and parrot the party line. However, with the southern border getting worse, the situation there getting worse under Joe Biden than it was under Donald Trump, the words that the radical left used, and as you know, they often go from 0 to 100 in a heartbeat. Because it's gotten worse under Biden, the words that they used to try to cripple Trump have now backfired on themselves, and they've crippled themselves with their own words. The Democrats have painted a circle around themselves. Okay, they've painted themselves in, boxed themselves in to a corner, right? This worked well when they could box Trump in, or at least they could think they could box Trump into a corner, but there's no Trump left to box into a corner. So now they've painted themselves into one.
Not only that, but a number of us took pictures and took videos because the American people have a right to know what is happening here. And the Biden administration sent down political handlers to try to keep silent, to try to keep the American people not knowing what's going on. The Donna facility is a giant tent city.
That, what you said there, is something that the Democrats or any left-wing party in any Western country, that's what they have at their core, right? It's all about, this is why I use the phrase hollow nuts. It is all about projecting the image that everything's okay. Even though everything's falling apart, because generally speaking, what their intentions are and the results of their actions often are two very different things. We find that with the left very often. And instead of admitting they were wrong, which is something they find very hard to do, they double down and double down and double down behind the scenes. But in front of the scenes, they go to extreme lengths to project this image that everything's just fine. Move on, nothing to see here. This is something that they do, rinse, repeat, again and again and again. The same with the border. They won't let people in to see because what they're scared of, look, they don't really care about the migrants. They don't care about their health. That's why we saw in the leaked footage and the leaked videos of them all packed in like sardines into these clear kind of cells. They removed the bars and instead they've put these kind of tarpaulin, see-through tarpaulin type things to create makeshift cells. See, it's all about image. Don't use bars. Use see-through acrylic or tarpaulin. That'll fool them into thinking they're not actually in a cell. You see what I mean? It's all about image and optics. No substance, just optics.
Built with a capacity of 250, it has nearly 4,000 people in it. We saw cages after cages after cages of little girls, of little boys, lying side by side, touching each other, covered with reflective emergency blankets. There was no 6-foot space, there was no 3-foot space, there wasn't a 3-inch space between the children lined up one after the other after the other.
That's true. That's what I mean about them being packed in like sardines. Now, obviously the Biden administration deserves a lot of criticism, not only for their handling of this, but also for the fact that they've encouraged this. But on the other end of the scale, you have to ask, why are so many children being sent forward on their own from many different South American countries? Now, do you think a 9-year-old girl could find her way from Guatemala to the United States on her own? Of course not, right? The Democrats often tell you that, oh, you know, this coyote business, this human trafficker and smuggler business, it's all blown out of proportion. There's not really that many of them. Au contraire, I think there is, right? Thousands of children cannot make their way from one end of their own hometown to the other, right? Especially in dangerous South American countries. So you expect me to think that they can navigate through multiple countries and then get to the Rio Grande, cross it and find their way into the United States alone? No, of course not. They are being guided by coyotes. And for the mainstream media out there who thought Donald Trump, when he said coyotes, was talking about the animals, we're not talking about the four-legged dog-like things. We are talking about ruthless people who belong to ruthless gangs who actually do unspeakable things to the people that they are escorting into the United States. Why do you think the parents send their young children ahead to the United States with birth control medicines and precautions? Why do you think that is? What do you think happens to them out there? No law enforcement in the middle of the night.
And children as young as infants. We saw playpens with infants and toddlers playing. We also saw a group of children who just today tested positive for COVID-19. The Donna facility alone reports roughly 10% of the individuals being held there are testing positive for COVID-19.
And that, as you saw them all packed in like sardines, sardines, that should tell you that it will spread like wildfire in there. So do they really care about COVID, really? Is that their real concern?
rates dramatically higher than the U.S. population, and the Biden administration is taking people who are testing positive for COVID-19 and locking them in cages side by side. This is inhumane, it is wrong, and it is the direct consequence of policy decisions by the Biden administration to stop building the wall, to return to catch and release, and to end the stay in Mexico policy.
You see, just goes to show you how divided America is right now. You have one party, the Republicans, when they get in, they continue to build a wall. When the Democrats get in, they start knocking it down. And then when the Republicans get back in, they start building it. Then when the Democrats get in, they knock it down. And it's not just the whole border / migration issue. It's on a whole range of issues. That's how divided the society is. And you know what? It might sound like I'm a bit biased, and if it is, then maybe I am. But I do believe it is the fault of the Democrats, because they are embracing things. This is what progressives do. Progressive is just a modern term for Marxism. Their definitions are the same: permanent revolution. You push and you push and you push. You move on to the next thing once you get your way, and you continue to change things forever. And I think at some point over the last 10-15 years, the Democrats went so far that the Republicans said, we haven't got any common ground anymore. You've moved too far to the left. There's no common ground with us anymore. We're just that far apart now. Now, with the border situation, going back to the border, this again just showed you that I think it is universally agreed among people from all over the world, all walks of life, Joe Biden is weak. He is seen as weak by everyone except the mainstream media, who thought his press conference was the best thing they ever said. And they've even said that. They were gushing with tears, snot dripping down their nose. You know the one, the press conference, Biden's only solo one, in which he was reading from the cards. The travesty of so-called journalists were talking very slowly so Joe Biden could understand when they were reading out their pre-scripted questions, which they'd given him in advance, and he still failed. But the mainstream media said it was the best thing they'd ever seen. So they think Joe Biden is like God. But everyone else can see how weak he is. And this is why so many people are pushing ahead, saying, look, let's get our children into the United States. Let's travel to the United States. Let's cross the Rio Grande ourselves. Because they can smell how weak Biden is. The reason why they didn't do this under Trump is because they knew Trump was a hard man.
A number of us are releasing those photographs and releasing those videos so the American people can see what's happening here. This needs to stop. It is a crisis, it is a tragedy, and it is a man-made crisis. This was avoidable, this was preventable. And regardless of your party, Republican or Democrat, you should look at what's going on here and say enough is enough, this must stop.
And with that there, that's the end of the clip. And he's right, it is enough. Enough is enough. Look, when is enough, right? You have to understand that it can't continue forever, right? Like I said in my open, that no matter what decision is taken, it's gonna end up with somebody being disappointed, right? And that's the way it is. I'm sorry, I wish it wasn't, but someone's gonna have to make some decision. Someone's going to have to implement some kind of order, and yes, no matter what is decided, someone's going to feel either left out or disappointed, possibly even a sense of injustice. But it can't continue. You cannot be called a country and not have a border. For example, me being of British stock, if I turned up in the northern border with Canada or at an airport and I just said, right, I'm coming in, had no passport, nothing, I'm coming in, they wouldn't tolerate it from me. So why tolerate it from other people, right? And the thing is, I love America. I think the United States is beautiful. I really love the country. And it's just such a shame to see what's happening to it. Really, it is. But I'm going to leave it there. Let me know what you guys think about Ted Cruz's speech. Let me know what you think about the situation on the border. I would like, or what's happening with Biden and the Biden's cages, I think they're calling it now. He should have saw that one coming, really. But then again, I don't think he can even see his breakfast coming at this late stage of his prognosis, we'll say. Thank you very much for watching. If you haven't yet, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and share this video around. Only takes a few moments to do those things, and it would really help this small commentary channel grow. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.